Initially, I was going to discuss this in my last video, Fiore Deserves Better, but I realized the alliance deeply affected Ellie just as much as Fiore, so I decided to make a separate video to talk about this specifically. On the surface, it makes sense. Create a collaborative effort to make the merger, and overwhelm the opposition with sheer numbers, all while sabotaging and framing to keep the alliance members clear until then. It sounds like a solid idea, but taking a closer look, the strategy has flaws. Flaws beyond just the obvious what if we're exposed. Flaws such as a lack of ease. Keeping every alliance member out of the hot seat would prove difficult enough. But add in the elements of not being in close proximity and difficulty of being informed up to date with members on separate teams, it'll become even more difficult. Sharing and controlling information is what makes or breaks a secret alliance. It's easiest to do this with smaller alliances or with allies that are in close proximity. Having too large an alliance or too spread out an alliance would be easier to discover. In fact, Miriam discovered the meeting because she saw so many teammates leaving together in the same direction, got suspicious, and followed. It would have been better for Alec to discuss the proposal with each individual independently, but even doing it that way may have led him to getting caught based off frequency of taking off. Frankly, cross-teaming isn't the best policy when it's done like this anyway, because of the consistent risk. What do I mean by that? Well, if an alliance crosses borders into every available team, and there's always a losing team, then no matter how well planned the plays are, at least one member will always be in a risky position and heading out to the elimination ceremony. This particular member will have been left out to dry and will feel ignored, opening up a possibility and high likelihood of a betrayal if they survive elimination. How is this situation beneficial for the alliance as a whole? Singling out an entire team from joining a cross-team alliance would be preferential to having a member in every team. Alliance members between involved teams could work together and force the one team unaligned with the alliance into last place. This situation leads to our next flaw, forced collaboration. Forced collaboration isn't ever a good idea. At best, you get begrudging acceptance. At worst, you could be dealing with a can of worms later down the line, created out of desperation and fueled with resentment. While it's not addressed properly, this alliance was forced collaboration for both Ellie and Fiore. When faced with the proposal, it may seem beneficial, but once understanding the risk of refusal and the power dynamic, it wasn't really a choice. Refusing the proposal while the other girl accepted would directly place the target on their own team, a target that they knew would have been their fault for rejecting the alliance proposal, and would come at a time when neither had a particularly good standing within their team. So how could either refuse unless both do? Rhea and Gret gave indications of interest in working with Alec, which creates initial peer pressure. Fiore wanted to play differently, but because of inner team dynamics being the way they are, this being a chance to reconnect with Alec, the initial pressure, and the reality of what will happen if she refuses but Ellie accepts, she's compelled to begrudgingly accept. And because Fiore accepted, Ellie must also begrudgingly accept, otherwise she's screwed. But both are still receiving the short end of the stick because of the distribution. The power dynamic is the final flaw. In the grand scheme of things, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Since 2/3 of the alliance all hail from the yellow team, they should get priority protection, especially if it's just them remaining on their team. Sure, the Alliance members on the yellow team can easily drop the 2 teammates not in the Alliance if they lose, but this only covers 2 eliminations max. If the yellow team wins, they decide whom among the last 2 members of the Alliance to aid and protect, while the other is left out to dry. If either other team wins, there's an unspoken expectation they sabotage the other individual Alliance member's team over the yellow team to protect the 2/3. It places higher importance on the 2/3 on the yellow team over Ellie and Fiore. Clearly, the Alliance members on the yellow team benefit heavily from this alliance, while Ellie and Fiore are left in a position where they must decide on betrayal towards the other, or risking their own eliminations for the good of the majority. In short, the alliance was great for the members on the yellow team, but a shot to the foot for Ellie and Fiore. A shot to the foot that was the better choice than the target they would otherwise have on their back for refusing. This is my takeaway on this, but I'd love to hear yours.